All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your free training on the art of advertising. I'm Calvin, and I'll be here on behalf of Larry today to give you some free tips and tricks of advertising in real estate for all of the realtors and real estate investors that are watching right now. So, a couple things before we begin. I'd first recommend that you have a pen and paper or some kind of Word doc around handy to write down the key points, since this isn't really just some presentation that you can keep watching over and over again. Also, feel free to share what I'm about to tell you today with any close friends or family that you want, but please don't give it out to everyone in the general public, or these trending strategies just wouldn't be that valuable anymore. So with that in mind, sit back, relax, and here we go. Now, why is advertising important? Well, the reason's all in one acronym that I've provided for you guys today so that you can remember it real easily. And the acronym that we're learning about today is MAP. You can think of it like your roadmap to learn the most important reasons about why people even bother to advertise. So to start off, the M here is for misinformation. If you look at the world today versus a century or even a decade ago, it's a no-brainer that there's obviously more knowledge that is known to mankind. And just look at Google, which some people even nickname their best friend or teacher. Whenever there's something that we want to find out now, we just hop onto Google and there's plenty of search results for us at our convenience, so we don't really have to go all the way to a library and spend hours searching for that one rare book that has the answers that we're looking for anymore. But when you're searching through Google, you realize there are pages and pages of different sources. And I'll bet that most of you, myself included, don't even get past the first page before we find what we want. And that's because quite often, the first page of search results have multiple results that all have our answers, except now we have to do some quality control to see which ones are worth trusting, and that's the problem with misinformation. So in the advertising world, it really gives you the opportunity to let your customers know why they should trust you in the first place and be that nail that sticks out from the rest. Okay, the next letter, A, stands for attract, because a major point of advertising is to catch people's attention, which leads to building curiosity. Later on, the point is eventually to have them being engaged with whatever you have to offer, and then hopefully contacting or visiting you to find out more. Now the last one, P. P is for promote, and I know what you're thinking. Obviously, advertising is promoting whatever product or service that you're trying to offer to the public. But what a lot of people look over is the fact that it actually gives you a chance to promote yourself and get your name out there, which is sometimes even more important than the product or service you were trying to promote in the first place. I mean, just think about it. If you were promoting a new dish at your new restaurant called Restaurant X, would you only want people to come to your restaurant for that time being just to try out that new dish? Or would you want them to continue coming back to try out all of the other dishes that you've got in your cooking arsenal and go there for a memorable experience? Well, I think you already know the answer, and that's another major reason why advertising is so important. Moving on. So, long story short, there are three main forms of advertising in our world today. The first here is social media, which is becoming increasingly more popular as we move to a digital revolution of technology and electronics, and away from the traditional pen and paper that we all used to hold in class, especially when preserving our environment is becoming a more and more important and hotter topic to discuss today. The next one's print magazines and newspapers, which people still use right now, as you can see from reading your daily newspaper or whatever, but the truth is it's slowly dying as we are once again moving to a world where technology is becoming the dominant form to communicate and work. And it's more efficient to put something online than to waste time and resources to print things. And in fact, most print magazines and newspapers are now also online if you haven't already noticed. So that's clear evidence we may be slowly, but for sure, moving away from print in the long run. And finally, there's a way that isn't too popular yet, but can be extremely effective in a world where print is dying. And that method is to advertise using books, which we'll be talking about real shortly here. Okay, so as a nice little bonus for being here today, I'm actually going to teach you exactly how you can get started on social media right away. And I'm going to tell you all the tips and tricks that I know about when to use which platform. Overall though, there's 4 big platforms that everyone uses today, and then a few others that you can also use if you'd like as well. Before we begin though, I'd like you to think about every different platform as a tool in your toolbox, because believe it or not, there's a right time and place to use each one. You don't just pick whichever one feels right or looks good. There's a reason for each platform. So first up, we've got Twitter. You want to think of Twitter as the hammer in your toolbox, because it is your loud place where you can post multiple times a day without other people getting annoyed with you posting too much. In fact, some people even post as much as 50 times a day. And that's perfectly fine. Now, Twitter is also good for experimenting, and this is because you can post everything you've got and figure out what types of content gets the most likes or the most engagement, and you'll be able to see what your customers really want and really like. So that's a great feedback tool for you as well. Next here, we've got Instagram, which is your flashlight, since it's the best for showcasing your products. Unlike Twitter though, you only want to post your best stuff on there because it's a place for higher quality content that catches people's attention and makes them curious to know more and get directly involved with you in the future. The key to remember here is that you don't want to post too many times on Instagram or people will actually stop following you, and that has happened before I've seen, which probably won't be too good for business as you can already see. Now third up, we've got the hybrid in between Instagram and Twitter, and that's Facebook. This is your multi-tool in your toolbox because it's good at doing a lot of things for your content, but it's not great because it's not specialized like Twitter or Instagram is. The cool thing about Facebook though is that there is a feature that allows for hyper-targeting, which lets you select the exact target demographic that you'd like, and Facebook automatically filters through all the criteria that you want and finds the people that match that criteria. So for example, you could search up all the first-time home buyers in Edmonton that are between, let's say, 20 to 30 years old and get those exact results. So it's definitely more convenient than trying to manually search for your customers when they're all presented to you on a plate like a nice meal at a restaurant. The last one though is a special tool for your toolbox, and it's called Snapchat. Now, Snapchat's relatively new compared to the last 3 we just talked about, so it's great for appealing to younger generations if that's who your target market is. Here you can use it like Instagram and post pictures, but the most notorious feature that Snapchat's known for are their Snapchat stories, where you can record mini videos of your business and your daily life and have people relate to you on a personal level, which is actually great for building long-term relationships. And then of course, there's a few others I'll just briefly mention here. So first off, if you have a lot of pictures that you'd like to try out, you can use things like Pinterest or Flickr, since these are also platforms for showing pictures. And if you have a lot of videos or some videos you'd like to show and test out, YouTube is a great platform for sharing videos, especially if you have long ones. And by long ones, I do mean greater than 5 minutes or so, since people are in the mindset and go specifically to watch videos on YouTube and comment on them. Now, this wouldn't be the case for something like Facebook, for example, when people go and log on to see different types of posts and content down their newsfeed, where videos may only be a small part, if any, of the reason that they're even logged in the first place. So now that you know when to use which social media platform, I'm also going to give you a bonus of an analysis of using social media in the first place, so you can figure out whether or not you want to use it. So to start off, compared to other forms of advertising, social media is relatively inexpensive because most platforms cost absolutely nothing to post, and even if they do, such as running a simple Facebook ad, those cost around an average of $5 a day, so it's pretty manageable for most businesses. And on the surface, you can see it's definitely inexpensive to get started, at least. However though, even though social media is a trending medium for advertising, the problem here is that most people aren't educated in the world of social media marketing. So it's not even effective in getting the results that they were hoping to achieve if they don't know exactly how to use each platform. And I mean, before I even told you about when to use which platform, you probably thought that most of these platforms were you just pick one, go with the flow, and see how everything works. But you didn't understand that maybe all of these different platforms are different tools. And let's be real here. Most of you probably have some sort of Facebook or Instagram personal account nowadays, even if you may not be very active on those platforms at all. But let me ask you this. Whenever you log into your account and see all those Facebook banner ads on the side, how many have you actually clicked on? Well, chances are you may have clicked on a couple that caught your attention, in which those people who made those ads were doing social media the right way. And those ads did catch your attention, so you wanted to see what they were all about. But it's pretty safe to say that most of them were just another ad you ignored, passed over, and continued on with your day. Another thing, though, with social media is that it requires you to post consistently if you want to become successful. And this can take a lot of time out of your day to manage all your platforms, especially if you're going to be that person who's going to post 30 to 50 times a day on Twitter to maximize your results. And I'm not even talking yet about the time that it takes to make your own ad. So this alone could become a full-time job on its own, which is a huge part of what I do. Now, you can always hire someone to do it too for a few $1,000s a month, not including the cost to run your ad campaign on your platforms though. But then obviously it wouldn't be inexpensive anymore in the grand scheme of things. So to wrap up here, social media is a great way to get started on advertising, and I would recommend it overall since it is trending in a world that's going digital and can be very inexpensive. But it does take a lot of time out of your day to do it yourself if you want to see results and make your time worthwhile. And that's why it gets a 7 out of 10 on the value scale in terms of what you get based on the time and money you choose to invest in it. Next up on the list, we have print advertising. Now, the first kind that most people use are magazines. And if we're talking about the real estate industry, this can be magazines such as Real Estate Weekly, Homes and Land, Canadian Real Estate Magazine, or REM for short, and many, many others that usually go out weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, or even yearly. Most of them nowadays also come in an online version, which is shown on their website. Now, if you want something faster and more up-to-date, you can always advertise in the daily local newspaper in wherever your desired location is. And these ads will reach a larger range of people than magazines since the news is a part of many people's daily lives. And for some of you, it's a part of your life as well. Finally, there's book advertising, which is not yet a popular medium for advertising on, but it's done by people who are serious about getting their results from advertising. And I'll tell you more about this in your training today for sure. Now, just like social media, I'm also going to give you the cold hard truth about print. Well, first of all, print is a great way to get your advertising out there without having to spend consistent effort working on it like you would with social media, so that's a plus. However, the downside to print is that it can get very expensive. If you want to advertise in a magazine that goes out once a month, you'll be looking at around an average of $500 to $800 a month just to get a picture ad that's the size of a little business card, which people might not even notice. Now, to get that same ad on a newspaper, and I'll give you a second to prepare for what I'm about to say, but it's going to be anywhere from $500 to $800 a day. Now, if you wanted something a bit bigger, like a half page, which you might, since pictures are worth 1,000 words, you're looking at around $1,600 to $1,900 a month for magazines, and $700 to up to $3,000 a day for newspapers, just to get a more eye-catching ad out there. And that may or may not include an advertising design service that you get, depending on how your negotiating skills work. So you might still have to make your own ad. Pretty sure you get the idea here by now. Now, another downside to print, and probably the biggest one, is that it doesn't last, as we are now living in a digital world that's phasing out print as a whole. If you want to talk actual hard statistics, Fortune 500 showed that newspaper readership fell by 25% and magazine readership fell by 19%, and this is just within the past 4 years. What's even more disturbing is that the average person spends 500 minutes consuming media per day, but only 16 of those minutes are spent with a newspaper. And in the coming years, newspaper and magazine readership is expected to continue dropping by 5% per year for the next several years. So in the end, let me ask you this. Why would you even pay to advertise in something that is being noticed less and less by the public? And with that being said, print unfortunately only gets a 1 out of 10 on the value scale, or a nice solid F. Okay, so how about this not so popular method where you advertise in a book? Well, just comparing between the last two forms of advertising we just talked about, I can tell you it's got the best of both worlds from print and social media. And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, it's almost effortless to advertise in a book, just like it is in a newspaper or magazine, because you don't need to be putting in effort every day to post consistently like you would with social media, or spend a lot of time learning how to do it the proper way. It's also cost effective, since it doesn't cost anywhere as much as it does to advertise in the newspapers or magazines, and you're getting an attractive medium that people use to gain knowledge, unlike that Facebook ad on the side that most people ignore as they scroll through their everyday news feeds. And lastly, it avoids the death by print problem, even though a book gets printed and published. And I bet some of you are curious as to how something that is printed can not only survive, but now thrive in a digital world, which is what I'll fully reveal in the next and last section of your training. And yes, we're almost done here, by the way. Just for fun though, I'll give this a 10 out of 10 rating on the value scale to keep things consistent, since a lot of people, and myself included, are all about getting value. Alright, here are all the real benefits that make books immune to death by print and the reasons why books are such a valuable medium to advertise on. From here on out, I'll be sharing with you guys some secrets that the masses don't know, so make sure to take lots of notes if you aren't already doing that. Okay, math time. So for all you math lovers out there, I'm going to show you a simple formula, and it's the only formula you'll ever need to know about book advertising for all of you who don't like math. So here it is. A book is essentially a business card, but on steroids. And why is that? Well, when you have some spare time today or tomorrow, go out and ask a friend, family member, spouse, or if you really want to have some fun, a complete stranger on the street, if they could do you a quick favor and show you all the business cards that they've ever gotten in their lives. Chances are they wouldn't be able to do that because most of those cards are shredded up in a landfill somewhere because they've thrown them away and just continued on with their lives. But a book is different because books are seen as valuable items since they contain knowledge and people love to learn, and it's human psychology to learn more. So almost nobody throws away a book just like that. And finally, advertising in a book gives you a targeted reach because the people who want to read that book do it for the sole purpose of learning about that subject matter and aren't distracted by other things like the daily news and newspapers or their Facebook feeds. This way, your chances of finding potential customers will be much higher since they're serious about the overall subject matter that the book covers, and it really helps you filter out people who have little or no interest in whatever you have to offer. Something else that makes books the real deal is that the authors of books are instantly perceived as experts, since an author must know quite a few things or else they wouldn't have been able to write that book in the first place, or at least that's how the masses see it, which is what matters. In fact, some of the most successful people nowadays actually use books as mentors. And this is because they're smart enough to understand that their own real human mentors have lives of their own, need sleep to survive, and aren't available to help out on a 24/7 basis, which is not the case with books at all. And in a world of 8 billion people, it's common sense that you would rather go to a chef to ask for cooking advice than a carpenter, even though both of those titles actually start with a C. So putting yourself in a consumer's shoes, would you rather go to a random chef with a degree in cooking, or a chef like Gordon Ramsay who wrote books on cooking that everyone knows about and reads to get cooking advice? Well, I think you know the answer and you get the idea here. And how exactly does this apply to you? You might have guessed it already, but when you advertise with an expert, people automatically see that you're affiliated with them, which builds your own credibility instantly, even if you're a nobody. If you want to know how this works, just think about this. If you walk into a room and see 5 random strangers sitting at a table, what goes through your mind? I'll give you about 5 seconds to think about this starting now. Got any ideas? Well, I'm guessing you didn't, because nothing would cross your mind and you'd ignore the table completely. Now, if you walk into another room and see another 5 people seated at a table, where one's a random stranger that you don't know, and the other 4 are Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, and let's say Richard Branson. Now what happens? Well, you're 100% going to think, wow, that's an important table over there. And even though you don't know that one random stranger, you automatically assume that he or she must be important to you just because he's seated in a table with amazing people. And that's exactly how it is when you advertise with an expert in a book. You become that random stranger that people just see as important. Not too shabby, hey?
Did you know that most people throw out your business card as soon as you turn away? Are you tired of wasting your hard-earned marketing dollars? Advertising that is not targeted to your market? Radio ads that are gone in 30 seconds? Newspaper ads gone in a day? Magazine ads gone in a week or a month? Stop wasting your hard-earned money on overpriced, ineffective, and outdated advertising. Invest in advertising that lasts a lifetime. It is something we like to call business cards on steroids. Consider cooperative marketing in a target-specific published book. These are educational books that people want to read. Team up with an expert in your field of expertise and gain instant credibility. Nobody throws out books. They just get passed around to new people. Visit us now at www.buckaroopublishing.com.
Moving to the last part of any 3-course meal, and probably the best part, there's always dessert, which this time we've decided to include 100% free. You're welcome. So just to save you time and reiterate that our main purpose is to help your business grow and achieve success, we're going to give you guys here today a couple ad design tips that are bonuses that you can easily just take for yourself and utilize, especially for those of you who like to design your own ads but don't know how to do it effectively. Okay, now, the main point here is that you'd want to include something free with your advertisement depending on how you're involved with the world of real estate. So for example, for those of you who are realtors, property inspectors, or mortgage brokers, a free home evaluation is something that you could easily include with your ad. Another option is to include a free consultation, which can apply to you in just about any role that you have in real estate, from being a real estate lawyer to a mortgage broker. And if you're an insurance agent, giving them a free insurance analysis is a great way to get your customers contacting you to inquire more about your services. Okay, final thing. I'm going to give you the last bonus tip that the masses who advertise on local newspapers and magazines wouldn't be able to take advantage of. So, obviously your ad gets the chance to reach people beyond your local area, especially since our books are listed online where people from all over the world can access them at the simple click of a button. Now, you're probably wondering, how does this apply to me? How is this even useful if my real estate services don't apply to someone who's living in, let's say, the state of Arizona? Well, the thing is, you can get involved into something known as joint venture referrals, or JV referrals. So when that customer from Arizona wants to do business with you, you can actually refer him or her to a professional who does service their area, but for a commission that you negotiate with them. This way, you'll be making passive income on top of the results that you're already getting from this program. Now that's an investment.